Where do I start? Hi folks, Ricky Tang here, and it's about time I give you a catch up on what's going on motorbike wise in my world. Starting with the VFR750. This bike has been a real pain in the backside. Well, it's not even the bike's fault, it's the fault of these new Marvin replica exhausts that I've bought. Now, every time I try and tell you the story about these exhausts, I end up talking to myself, well, on camera, for like half an hour, and it just gets wild and random, and I get a bit frustrated. Anyway, let's give you the potted history of the last, well, 3 or 4 weeks now with these exhausts. Basically, my issue is this. Back here, the rusty thing, is the original collector on the motorbike. To the best of my knowledge, the actual OEM original exhaust downpipes and collector. Here, in black, are the new silencers. Now, this pipe here is too wide, too big in diameter to clamp onto the collector properly. If I try and clamp this with nothing in between this pipe and the collector, I end up creasing this pipe. I can't get it tight enough. It doesn't form a good fit. So you might wonder what it's doing on the bike. Well, what happened initially was I bought a gasket or a pair of sealing rings. Let me just show you these. Well, I'll show you one of them. Here's one. So I bought a pair of those OEM original Honda sealing rings because they're required for the original exhaust. In the microfiche, in the parts list, you have these between the collector and the original silencers. Problem is, these are too wide, they're too thick to allow the silencer to go on over this and then the collector. This fits onto the collector fine, but I can't fit the pipe over it. In fact, I tried. And this is what I ended up with. Absolutely destroyed gasket at £20 each, trying to fit this over, trying to fit the silencer over this. So I took that to mean the replica silencers, their opening was too narrow. So I bought this to try and widen the hole. Didn't work because this was exactly the same diameter as the exhaust. So I couldn't fit in and I couldn't wang that down into the hole to make the hole wider. Anyway, it would have made it wider in a kind of a cone shape and, you know, wouldn't have been wider consistently all the way down to fit this in. So this was useless. 15 quid up the Swanee. Then I spent £90. Yes, a fool and his money are easily parted. £90 on this. This is a Sealy pipe expanding set. Unfortunately, when I tried to use it, I didn't read the instructions properly and I broke several of the teeth. That's got a crack in it. So I broke that on first use because I never put this far enough down the pipe before I started expanding it. I contacted Sealy to see if I can get these replaced, and they say no, you can only buy one of these as a spare. You can't buy an individual limb, let's say, whatever. Stupid. So I spent another £27 on a cheap knockoff Chinese version of the same thing and used those limbs on the Sealy unit. Didn't work. It still expanded the silencer as a kind of a cone shape, not consistently, and I just couldn't get it wide enough basically to fit over. So I'd failed miserably. During this couple of weeks of waiting for these to arrive and trying to get the silencer big enough to fit over the gasket, I contacted Marvin and said, well, what's going on? These are required in the parts fiche, in the parts list. Your silencers don't fit over them. What's happening? And they responded saying that the new silencers are not designed to fit over gaskets. They're designed for metal on metal contact. So no sealing between the two required. Well, that's not right either, because I've already found out that the pipes are too big without anything in between. So they're too big without a gasket and they're too small to fit over the original gasket. So I'm stuck. I bought exhaust bandage, the kind of thing that you use to repair holes in silencers in cars. I tried that as a shim, basically, to fit between the two pipes. Didn't work. I won't go into any more detail. Didn't work. I ended up cutting up Coke cans to fill out the gap between the two. So I'm using Coke cans cut into strips to act as a shim. That was 60% successful. I don't think I used enough shims or enough sheets of Coke can. So I think that's going to be the way forward. While I managed to have a good seal for a day between the collector and the pipe, I did get the bike MOT'd. Just squeaked through. I've been warned that the head bearings are a bit notchy and rear brake pads are low. And that's it though. I got through. Amazing. So on last weekend, I did 400 miles on the bike and enjoyed it. The engine's great. I really like the engine. Suspension, it's a 35-year-old bike. The suspension is probably original, and so all the steering and chassis bearings. Handling isn't brilliant, but it's not bad considering. So that's where we are on the VFR. Next, KTM. I'm pointing over there. You can see it. I can just see on the screen. It's a very small screen on this camera, but I can see your in picture. Now, this bike has got about 2,600 miles on it. And I have noticed a bit of a problem. I think I've got a warped front disc. When I brake at high speeds, I get a vibration through the whole front end. And when I brake to a standstill at slow speeds, there's a kind of grabbing and releasing sensation from the front brake. So that says to me probably disc is a bit out of true. Or, as the shop explained, maybe there's a problem with the wheel, and the best thing I could do is not ride it. So until I get it to them to have a look at. I told them about this problem 2 weeks ago, probably early May. So like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th of May, something like that. The earliest they could see me is the 3rd of June. So that's next Saturday. So I've not been able to ride this bike. Or it's not a good idea to ride the bike, so I haven't been riding the bike. So most of that time, while I couldn't ride the KTM, the Honda was still off the road and wasn't MOT'd. So I was running out of choices of bikes to ride. So I brought the Kawasaki back into play. So I hadn't really ridden the Kawasaki in a couple of months, really. So with the Kawasaki, I've taken it out for a ride a few times because it is road legal, perfectly good to go. It's just been sitting there doing nothing, being an emergency backup bike, which is kind of what the Honda was going to be doing, the Bros over there. But because it's got a carburation problem, a running problem, I haven't been using it at all. So I've been using this, and I've got to say, I've been enjoying it. And it's given me a bit of a dilemma. The Kawasaki is better to ride, more comfortable to ride, smoother to ride, and kind of more enjoyable to ride than the KTM up to about 60 miles an hour. After 60 miles an hour, the extra power of the KTM kind of takes over. I don't think I'm cut out for the single cylinder life. So you know what that means. I think this bike's going to be for sale. Once I get the front brake replaced, presumably under warranty, I think the bike's going to go. Now, you might think that's pretty crazy for someone who's owned this bike for maybe less than 6 months. Oh, yeah, about 6 months. But yeah, I didn't know long term how how I would gel with this bike. I hoped I would gel with it. But the single cylinder just vibrates a bit too much for my liking, just in general riding. The Kawasaki is smooth. It's very smooth. Now, like I say, at about 60 miles an hour, nothing wrong with the bike. It's just, it gets a bit breathless on higher speed roads. But everywhere else, if you take it away from higher speed roads, nothing wrong with it really. Now, when I bought the KTM, I was somewhat seduced by the electronics, the lean sensitive ABS, the quick shifter, traction control. But fact of the matter is, I don't think I've felt the traction or the ABS intervene, as far as I know. I haven't seen any lights flash to my knowledge. And the up and down quick shifter, well, the up shift is not good. I don't use it basically, or hardly ever use it. Downshift is great, but yeah, for the quick shift going up a gear, it's nothing like I hoped it would be. Electronic dash is nice, can't deny that, but overall the electronics package hasn't done as much for me as I thought it would. And the Kawasaki, like I say, with its smoother ride and also, quite importantly for me, lower seat height, it's easier to manage. So yeah, I think the Kawasaki is going to stay, because I was thinking of selling this one, and the KTM is going to go. That's where I'm thinking at the moment. I may change my mind. Now, you may notice that it's got the standard screen on. That's partly my thinking. If I'm going to get rid of the bike, I'll start putting it back to standard. But I did have a thought. The one downside with the Kawasaki is this screen. Look at it. It's a Frankenstein's lash up. I've already bought 2 aftermarket screens with the Kawasaki. Both of them are crap for me. They create too much noise and turbulence. But the Givy airflow screen that was sitting on the KTM could almost fit on the Kawasaki if I drill the bracket a little bit. There's 4 lovely mounts here on the Kawasaki. Very sturdy. Sturdier than the KTM, I'll tell you, because one thing that annoys me with the KTM is with all that weight of that screen up front. Oh, I can't do it because the bike will probably fall over. But this whole headlight mount isn't very secure, isn't very sturdy, isn't very robust. When I'm going over bumps, the headlight jumps up and down, the headlight beam, and not nearly as secure and not nearly as a stable headlight beam as what comes out of the Kawasaki. Even though the light beam itself is halogen and it's not very good, it's a better headlight unit, it's better designed, it's more sturdy. So I'm thinking there's a bracket on that windscreen, a metal bracket behind all the plastic, and I think it's got the size to allow me to drill 4 holes in it and mount that bad boy on this. I've already mocked it up, I've already kind of held it against the bike, and I've got clearance for the handguards. So yeah, I'm going to get busy trying that, because Givy don't actually make one of these for the Kawasaki for whatever reason. That Givy one there is like the biggest thing they do for that bike, and whatever it is to do with the design, it doesn't work for me. So yeah, I think I'm going to try and make that fit this. And even if it doesn't fit that very well, I won't destroy the bracket, so I can still sell the whole lot for a KTM 390 or a KTM 790, because that screen fits on both bikes. Okay, we're getting there. Down here, under that towel, is my Mini Moto, which I think I rode 3 times, getting on for 2 years ago now, and haven't ridden since. So at some point, I'll remind myself of the specs of that Mini Moto, and I'll put that up for sale, because it's just sitting there doing nothing. Talking of sitting there doing nothing, the Honda. Now, I love the sound that bike makes, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't sold it. It sounds great when you ride it, but the thing is, I'm not riding it. There's something wrong with the carburation on that bike. Holding a steady throttle is not running properly. And it might be a simple fix. It probably is a simple fix, but I just haven't got the appetite to get into it again. I think I should let someone else tackle the Honda Bros. Someone who will give it more attention than I'm giving it, I think. So I think that will go as well, because otherwise it's just an ornament. Besides, I've got 4 bikes in this shed currently. So if I get it down to 2, there'll be space for at least 1 more motorbike. Right, that's it. I've been talking for 20 minutes almost. Although I'll edit this down a little bit. So anyway, I will give you an update. I owe you a Suzuki video of that GSXS 1000 GX. It'll come soon. It's just that every time I finish work during the week, I'm tired, mentally tired, and it's hard to concentrate on making videos. Then at the weekend, I'm kind of recovering from the week, but I'll get it to you at some point soon before it's completely old news. So see you folks down in the comments. Take care of yourselves. See you in another one soon. Ta-da.